Fernando Estevez, what legislation would you propose to foster small business growth?
Oh, I love this question. Do I need the mic? Can you all hear me?
Please use mic.
All right, pass it down. Okay, give me.
Just obviously, this is not a technology, right? Joking. Thank you for the question. So what I'm going to propose is we have systems in place that allow for education opportunities for young individuals, and I think I was speaking with the ladies here about developing our skilled workforce, right, and creating that industry, which is going to help small businesses and big businesses and foster economic growth. So what initiative am I going to take? So what I want to do, if you look at the Department of Labor, they have a current program. It's called the GRAP program. Anyone familiar with GRAP here? And what it is, it's a Guam apprenticeship program. And basically, it's subsidized by the federal government to where you get credits for having apprenticeships, like in plumbing, electrician, and certain specialized fields. But what that doesn't allow for is to create the ability to have those that are in more administrative roles, such as HR professionals, those that are in management positions, and them to develop. Because in order to send them to schools, say GCC and UOG, we lose them. So the initiative that what I would propose are tax deductions for small businesses that allow for their employees to go get educated through current programs that are in existence, which also opens opportunity to hire part-time employees or other employees that could potentially start filling that role. So now we see a ladder in career progression within our current companies, small or big. And what we see true growth in our companies. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Fred Morgalio, what legislation would you propose to foster small business growth?
Thank you for that question. You know, after working for over 29 years in a government agency, you know, and everything about studying public administration is about nonprofit. And I have a brother who has a restaurant in Tumon and a small business. And the first cost is his personal cost is he puts in there and all the licensing requirements and the regulatory standards that have to be met, and just for a restaurant. And I'm sure with all the other kind of diverse small businesses that we have in our island, which is the engine of the economy, they will depend on the senator who's going to look and review those licensing procedures. And my friend here, my primo, Joe over at Ready on Tax knows that there's lines of individuals there applying for their business licenses. So what I'm going to do as a senator is actually look into that regulatory license procedures and try and see whether we can streamline some of that. And of course, my other thing, and it's related to economic prosperity and security. That economic portion is what it's all about. And I believe that's good government legislation. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see. Senator Dennis Rodriguez, what legislation would you propose to foster small business growth?
That's lovely. Great. You know, just like what Fred had mentioned about one of the initiatives that I'm actually working on now, working with Gita, is streamlining the process. It is the process right now to get licenses from different agencies to start a business. Once upon a time, the permit center we have down at Public Works was a one-stop center. And what I'm working on now, and we're not able to finish it in this term, and I'm blessed to be able to serve in the next term, is to perhaps create a bureau that has the different agencies, the regulatory agencies under this one bureau that may be headed by Gita, to be able to address the needs of each small business owner that comes in that door. Right now, you go into the permit center, you come on a Monday, you can only see DPW or land management, you can't see public health because they're not there till Tuesday, the next day. And so we've got to bring it back to what the true intent of that permit center was to make it a one-stop center. It was done through an executive order. I'm looking at ensuring that it's done through statute, so we mandate it. And the difference here is that we're going to have an entity, perhaps Gita. We're looking at that and having Gita be the one that oversees that operation.
So what happened? It was a one-stop, and it seems like a lot of people here on the panel are interested in the same thing. Why haven't we been able to fix this one-stop center?
Yeah. Well, my understanding is that, as I said earlier, it was established through executive order during the Gutierrez administration. And so the intent there was to have all the different agencies there in one place. After a while, because of the different needs of the different departments, those people will pull to do other mandates within their department.
I see. Thank you. Thank you for providing that clarity also. Let's see. Senator Tommy Morrison, what legislation would you propose to foster small business growth?
As the author of the Office of Technology and also confirming our first Chief Technology Officer, any legislation that would integrate technology that would deliver and advance our services for our people should be highly considered. In the FY 2016 Budget Act, I was able to, with the help of my colleagues, to insert an amendment in there that would address a more efficient payment system. As we see right now, we have an antiquated payment system. We see before us, as you go out there, you see that the convenience fees are burdening on the people or the consumers. So I look forward to ensure that the Office of Technology and Department of Administrations address a more or modernize our payment system so that we can better have an efficient and system that definitely addresses not only how we collect but how we settle our transactions going forward. It's important that we continue to OC deliver on a roadmap going forward that would address our GIS program, cybersecurity, policy and planning with that office, ensure that we can look out 5, 10 years, even 15 years to see where IT should be. This office should have been created 10 years ago to help our businesses grow and how we transact with our government. So thank you for the question.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Michael Nicholas, same question. What legislation would you propose to foster small business growth?
Just to clarify real quick, Logan, you're talking about small business growth, so you mean existing businesses, or are you also talking about new businesses?
Both.
Okay. Well, for me, it all boils down to capital. I think that for our businesses to either get started or for our existing businesses to be able to grow, we need to increase their access to capital. Right now on Guam, the only access to capital that you're able to have if you want to get started is your own money, money from a friend. If you're lucky to have an angel investor, it's very difficult to get a bank loan if you're trying to get your own business just started. So getting businesses started requires access to capital. Existing businesses, if they have good cash flow, they may be able to get bank loans, but again, we're only talking about funding it yourself, funding it with your own cash flow, or funding it from bank loans. What we don't have is an equity capital market. We don't have a place where a small business can go and say, hey, you know what? I incorporated, I want to sell 20% of my shares, I want to raise $100,000 because I want to increase my inventory, or I want to open up a new location. We don't have any of that here. And so what I would like for us to do is take advantage of some of the provisions within the Securities and Exchange Act, which would allow us to establish an intrastate securities and exchange market here on Guam, where local small businesses can go and put their shares into this exchange, and the exchange can then facilitate matching those small business interests with investors who are looking to invest some of their money. We have over $5 billion in our bank accounts, checkings and savings accounts. If we can just deploy 10% of that, we'll inject $500 million into our small business economy.
I'll give you 20 more seconds. Given the size of our local economy, do you think that's realistic to implement?
Just again, on expanding on what I just said, when I was in the banking industry, and that was already four years ago, there were $5 billion in deposits, savings, and checking accounts. And right now, with interest rates being so low, the return on that money is pretty much nil. And so if we can create a mechanism by which small businesses will be able to offer even a slightly higher rate of return, we will see a lot of that money spill into our small business economy. So with $5 billion 4 years ago, I would assume that maybe we're up to at least 550, 5 billion, 500 million. We can definitely get that money into the small business economy.
Thank you, Senator. Moving on. This question is for Brent McCready. Senator Brent McCready, how do you propose to grow our economy?
Thank you. I wanted to answer the last question, but I want to go with this question.
Please do.
I would just like to say on the last question, I think the legislature needs to stay out of the way of small business and let the small business people do what they do best, which is run a small business. There's too many people in the legislature who think just because they got elected, they now know more about the small business than the small business owner. We need to stay out of the way, let them do their work, and we need to support them in their success. I think that's the key to success right here, is to stay out of the way. Your second question?
How do you propose to grow the economy outside of leaving small business owners alone?
We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We all know that 60% of our economy is from tourism. We need to make sure that we infuse our resources into tourism. One of my biggest concerns when you talk about tourism is public safety. People want to come to an island that's safe. When I go with my wife and my kids anywhere in the States, first question I ask, is it safe for our kids? So without public safety, we don't have a economy, that billion-dollar economy, that we would like. And so 60% of our economy has to do with public safety. So I think to continue to grow our economy, we have to make sure our island is safe.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Regine Lee, same question to you. How do you propose to grow our economy?
Thank you, Logan. So we all know that tourism is one of the strongest legs of our three-part economic stool. So I think it's important that we stick to the goals that are outlined by the Guam Visitors Bureau and other folks when they determined the Tourism 2020 plan. We want to focus on MICE markets. We want to focus on diversifying. So not putting all of our eggs into the Japan basket, but also taking a look at growing China and Russia. We want to attract higher yield tourists. We also want to focus on what makes Guam so unique. So we want to focus on the Chamorro culture and having sports and events that can be found only here on Guam. Another important aspect to growing the economy is investing in new industries. So we want to talk about supporting information technology and education, really promoting education here, GCC and UOG, and importing a lot of folks to come check out how awesome our educational platforms are here in this region. But also, infrastructure is really important. We need to strengthen and innovate our utility system, our roadways, and really prioritize public transportation. That's a great way for us to help grow the economy, and I want to make sure that we plan ahead for the future while growing and strengthening our economy. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaker Wampat, same question to you. How do you propose to grow the economy?
How do I propose? Well, first of all, we know that the two main drivers of our economy is military and tourism. But as I said earlier, we can't just put all of our eggs in one basket, and that we need to diversify. Now, this is not something that I'm going to do, but I've actually been doing as a senator, knowing that we need to diversify. So some of the things that I've done that needs to continue as well is the promotion, of course, of aquaculture. And I've done this because many times businesses or individuals come to my office asking what type of business should they start, and aquaculture is definitely one of them. And we have a company right now that's going to open soon in the south. And what I've also asked them to consider is when families come here, they want an experience to go fishing and to bring their children to this aqua farm, to go there, catch a fish, take it, have it clean and cooked and served. So that company now is starting to do it. The other is providing fish stocks in our oceans to help our fishermen. That too already is actually happening. And by doing that, it helps all of the other fishermen. The other is to then expand on the incubator system. The incubator system actually have a law, but unfortunately they tore down the DOA building. But what I wanted to do was to make that another incubator for small businesses to be established there, and in that concept. Sports tourism, I've actually been doing. We've brought over 1,000 kids here. Educational tourism. Okay, sorry. That's a lot more.
Will Castro, same question. How do you propose to grow the economy?
There are 3 points I could share with you. One would be to support what works. We can see already record numbers in tourism, so I definitely, if given the privilege to serve in the 34th, will continue to lend support to the administration to not only grow existing but attract new markets. That's number one. I think something we need to look at, and it was mentioned earlier to some extent, is an untapped but potentially burgeoning new market in the K-12 international student industry. I was a former director of advancement at, I guess you could say, a really respectable private school within the region. And I also had the privilege of serving as a director of institutional effectiveness at a regional college, 2-year college, north of Guam. And so I can tell you that Guam is situated in a unique place where you can attract a K-12 market, not a tertiary market, because of proximity, year-round summer exposure, but also because it's a proven market. I can tell you right now, conservatively speaking, 10 schools at 10,000 kids a year, 500 students, you're looking at $5 to $15 million in gross revenues already coming into the economy. So we just took a more entrepreneurial approach at that. Perhaps we can mature that market and expand it. The last one, I'm a village boy from Baragana, and I'm really hoping that we can grow the economy by tapping into our own people and natural resources. This is Tinian Donisali pepper farm. This is a $10 million industry, and the only question I have for myself is why aren't we using our lands and our resources to establish a similar industry or an industry like it for export? Thank you. I'm number 5 in the Republican Party.
Thank you.
I missed that part last intro.
Senator Jim Espaldon, same question. How do you propose to grow the economy?
You know, back in the late 70s and the mid-80s, all the way to the mid-80s, the government of Guam actually used to develop an economic development plan with a 5-year planning horizon. We don't do that anymore. You know, and I think that's important. I remember sitting during my first term and taking a look at what I got out of Singapore. They actually did a 20-year plan, and there was a 7-year plan, they had a 15-year plan, and it went all the way to a 20-year plan. We have no plan, and that's the problem. Because then, you know, without it, well, let me just step back. Guam needs to return to that process, right, to be able to plan it out. Because then when we start talking about attracting outside investment or even perhaps opening the doors for our own local entrepreneurs, they will know what the focus is in terms of what we're trying to accomplish. I don't see any other way to do this. I mean, we can talk about, you know, 30 seconds. We can talk about, you know, fostering the business growth and things like that. And there are ways to do it. I mean, I would take a look at even perhaps taking a small percentage, less than 1% of the business privilege tax for small businesses to open up. And again, this is another way to foster economic growth on this island. I got 10 seconds. I'm going to end right here because I'll get too involved.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Senator. Krista Wainus, same question. How do you propose to grow the economy?
Thank you, Logan. Actually, you know, your two questions are intertwined. Because to me, in order to grow the economy, you have to grow more small business. Talking about incubators, if we go up to the flea market, you will see people that are surviving there every day. But there's a lot of people with good ideas that just have some barriers to getting over that hump and starting that business and making their business thrive. Sometimes we think in government that we have to introduce a bill every time we want to do something. Sometimes we just have to work with our government agencies to ensure that we're doing more and we're ensuring that they're following through on their mandates. You got one of the best persons in GYP right now at the head of GITA, which is Jay Rojas. And I say we go out there and we be more proactive in government, ensuring that we're finding all these small businesses, find out what their barriers are to taking that next step and ensuring that they can move up. The other thing is, the biggest barrier, and many of you who are contemplating on opening your new business instead of staying with the employer you are with right now, I bet you when you sat down with an advisor, the first thing that they told you was one of your biggest expenses is going to be offering health insurance to your employees. We need to make sure that we continue to expand on programs that are already being worked on by a good friend of mine, Senator Rodriguez, as well as some things that Will Castro's done, to ensure that we make sure we have insurance pooling to where small businesses can combine and become one big conglomerate and get a plan so that affordable health care can be there. That's a lot of times when a person wants to open a business, if they're going to have 3 or 4 employees, biggest reason why they don't do it is because sometimes it's an entire paycheck just to ensure a family forward. So these are the kind of reforms we need. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Sorry, Tom.
Beware the bell. So the next question is for Senator Tina Barnes. Which law would you like to see repealed and why?
I knew that question's going to come up, Logan. You know what? It's not about repealing, Logan. It's probably about strengthening. Each law that gets passed evolves every day. What may have been bad back then is probably good today. What may have been good back then is not so good today. So I think it's really important that we take the opportunity to see how we can strengthen the laws that are existing today. A good example is we just captured the loopholes between the $2 and $3 million that we'll be getting with the bed and breakfast concept in the short-term vacation states. Redmond Tax just told us that because they suggested to me business certificates and not business certificate of good standing, that they can't give licenses. So we need to re-amend the bill and put the portion in that says business of good standing in order to get the business license. I mean, those are things that we need to look at. So really, for me, it's not about just repealing. It is about amending, reenacting, and enhancing laws that are in place every day, because laws evolve every single day, depending on
Is there a particular law that you would enhance?
Enhance, right? I just brought one up, the bed and breakfast concept. The other one is maybe even looking at the disabled service veterans that were given the small business preference points for construction or for contracts with the RFPs, opening it up to small businesses and giving them those preference points when they go up for RFPs.
Thank you, Senator.
You're very welcome.
I'm gonna upend the panel right now and ask a question that's very pertinent regarding public law. I forget which public law it is, but it provides for victims of abuse to 32633? No, it hasn't been signed, but it's been passed. But the governor has the option to veto, right?
This Friday is the due date.
This Friday is the due date. In the event of a veto, by a show of hands, how many of you would vote to override the veto? All right, thank you.
If I could, because I didn't raise my hand, right? Because, right now I voted for the bill, but, now there's an effort to bring up all the facts that weren't before us before we voted on the bill. I'm a Catholic, I'm faithful to my church, and I want to be open. And so I'm open to listen to what our church and our parishioners are saying. That's why I couldn't just raise my hand, because I want to be able to listen.
Okay, well, this is a conversation that hopefully after that we can discuss with our membership. So you'll have the opportunity to discuss that with our membership. Okay. Senator Tom Madden. There's something. Which law would you like to see repealed and why?
I think I would have to agree with what Senator Barnes said, that it's not so much repealing the laws that we have, more so than really amending it to bring it, to make it current to the environment that we live in today. I believe that the framework of Guam's laws are still very sound, and it's a matter of really getting inside that law and tweaking it. Now, a good example is Guam's procurement law. Everybody thinks that it is just the most terrible law that we have, and we need to throw it out and replace it with the federal acquisition rules. And that's just not the right thing. When really things that need to be changed include making the government more accountable for its actions. Current law says that if I was to protest a bid, I have 14 days to submit my protest. After that, the government has no timeline as to when it responds to that. So people are suggesting that we should put a protest bond in place, we're at least the committee and with the bill that I'm working with is saying no, that's really going to put a damper on the self-policing feature of our procurement laws. So I don't think it's a matter of repealing laws more so than amending them to make it better. Another good, very simple example is our...
You ring a bell. Thank you, Senator.
See him after.
We'll see you. Let me see. 9. Joe St. Augustine, which law would you like to see repealed and why? And if you're not in favor of repealing laws, which one would you enhance?
Well, I'd go back right to what Senator John had brought up, the procurement law. We need to take a look at that because that's impacting the schools today. It impacts just about everything that the government of Guam is doing. Every time there's a bid out there, there's every excuse to stall the bid. And the process just seems to be ridiculous. You know, it's like going back to your other question, how do you want to grow the economy? Fix the procurement law so they can help the economy. How do you want to foster small business growth? Take a look at the tax incentives that are out there. Let's fix the laws that are out there, or amend the laws that are out there, because some of them are just, they come up with every reasons to delay the process that needs to happen.
So is there any particular procurement law that you would change or amend?
Well, you know, like Senator Adam mentioned about the bond.
Yes.
You know, when they did the issue of Simon Sanchez, if Cortec was really serious and they want to take the contract, then put $10 million on that protest. And when you lose, you take the 10 million, goes to the government. And if you win, you get 10 million, and you got the contract. And let's move with that because it's, you know, you put your money to, you know, to work.
So this would be in addition to the bid bond that everybody puts in on the bid anyway?
No, that only when you protest. If you protest like what Cortec's doing, they're protesting a $100 million bond. I mean a contract. Then you put 10%, $10 million in. If you win, you get your money back. If you lose, the government takes the 10 million and it pays for all the expenses the government has to go through and the losses.
Interesting. Thank you. Let's see, Delina Nelson. Which law would you like to see repealed and why?
Okay, you know, last year in November, I was very disturbed about what happened in our legislature. And the fact that this pay raise went was discussed over a weekend, and it was decided that they were going to give the senators, the incumbents, were going to move forward with the raise. For me, I thought it was very duplicitous in their actions. I thought that, but this is not to say to do away with the work that they have done, okay? We have very good incumbents here. But this would be the one law I would firstly repeal when we get in so that we can finally put this to rest. They tried to vote on it again, I believe, earlier this week or last week, and it was the same story. So to put this to rest, to finally end, you know, this discussion so that we can focus on bigger things, that would be the one that I would repeal.
Thank you. I pose a question to the panel regarding the pay raises. How many of you would be in favor of repealing pay raises by show of hands?
And Logan, could you clarify?
Can you clarify that,
pay
please?
raises? Which pay raises? All of them?
Logan, would you?
For senators.
For just senators or elected officials?
Or just senators. Wow, looks like.
Six times, Randy, 6 times.
We've had our pay cut in the 27th Guam Legislature by 20%. We've been there and we've done that.
Okay. Thank you.
Logan, can I just add to some of the reasons also is teachers are fairly underpaid. They were supposed to receive around a 40% of pay raise due to the case study, and they only received 17%. And so many times we look down on our teachers and not treat them as professionals that they should be. And for us, for a legislative body to not see the disparity among this, what is also duly wrong.
Thank you. Jermaine Alberto, same question. Which one would you repeal or amend or enhance and why?
The first one I would repeal is 32-208. That includes senators, the governor, lieutenant governor, and appointed officials. Repeal that. That would be my first one. Another one, I mean, you should ask the panel that question. 32-208. But one of the ones that I would repeal is there's a government travel law, right? I wrote it down. Title 5, Chapter 23. And it's in regards to per diem for government employees who travel off island for the responsibilities of their respective jobs. And it includes spouses of certain government officials. So I would repeal that. And then there's one that gives per diem to hire, for lack of a better term, higher up officials who get 130% more, or if you're a regular employee, you get 100% of the per diem. It's a national average, right? So there are employees in the government who get 130% above that, and then there are other employees who get 125% above that. I think it should be just 100% across the board for all employees, regardless of where you are on the ladder. So that's the bill, or that's the law that I would repeal.
Okay, you put it to us, 32208. You're in favor of the repeal?
Yeah, that includes the senators, governor, lieutenant governor, and appointed officials.
So I put it to the panel. How many of you would be in favor of repealing 32208?
That's not a fair question at this point, without explaining why.
No, that's what,
There was no public hearing.
Okay, we actually won't get into it, but you have provided the membership with the opportunity to address the question with you directly, whether or not you raise your hand or not. Okay? We're starting the conversation here. We're not ending the conversation. Okay? Moving on. AJ Balahaja. Which law would you like to see repealed, amended, enhanced?
You know, I was one of the individuals that didn't raise my hand for the repeal. Not to say that it wouldn't be something that I would consider if it came onto the floor. You know, we have a lot of issues that are dividing our community right now. And a lot of the issues that we should be concentrating on, especially when it comes to funding some of the things that need to be funded, are not being taken care of, because we shouldn't be thinking of ourselves first when it comes to paying, giving ourselves a pay raise. With that said, I think that we should concentrate on every resource that we can to make things better for our people. And I do like the idea of going back and looking at, you know, some of the mandates and laws that are required, and make adjustments as we go along. But I propose that we just take every single bit of legislation that's out there, put a 5-year cap on that, and take a look at it and see whether or not it's still valid, whether it needs to be amended or changed or just gotten rid of altogether. Thank you.
Okay, is there any specific law that you would like us to evaluate? 5, 10 years, 20-year-old law?
I think all laws.
All laws should be
all laws
evaluated.
should be, you know, we should put a 5-year cap on that.
And who should evaluate them?
I think the legislature should evaluate that and see how effective they are or how effective they're not. You know, we have a lot of laws that are sitting in the books that are no longer being used, no longer valid, and that's a lot of laws to go through. So from this point forward, we should start looking at it every 5 years and seeing whether or not they still apply.
Thank you. All right. Speaker Wampat.
Same question?
No, actually, new question. What are your thoughts on the minimum wage increase?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
What are your thoughts on the minimum wage increase, the last minimum wage increase?
Well, I do support the minimum wage increase. And I know there are those who said, just wait for the federal government to do it and automatically it would happen to us. You know, when the last time that this happened, there was this myth that a lot of people would have been laid off, businesses were shut down, and what we found out that when a survey was actually conducted, that we found that it wasn't necessarily true. And just the other day, I ran into one guy who actually said it to us during the public hearing, and then he said, I'm doing so well now, and can I have a picture taken with you? I couldn't believe it, but that's the myth that we hear, and the exact same thing as well when they say that you know, they're going to close down or they're going to release people. They're finding that their workers are supportive, they're more productive, and business is doing very well. At least that's what I've heard from some of the business sector, and also from the survey that was conducted afterwards.
In the last vote, when we raised the minimum wage, it was raised by $1, right? Where would you like to see the minimum raise, or the minimum wage raised to, and when would you like to see that implemented?
Well, the last time when the community responded, they wanted it to be gradual, and I support that, because then we want to be able to have the business make the adjustment. So if well, I don't know what the exact amount would be now to increase, but I definitely would support dividing it into half, and then the following year then to follow suit with the remaining. To give the businesses an opportunity then to make the adjustment for their employees.
Thank you.
And the businesses.
Thank you, Speaker. Regina Lee, What are your thoughts on the minimum wage increase?
Thank you so much, Logan. I too support raising the minimum wage to assist Guam's working families. However, I'm not sure about the survey that the speaker has, but there was an economic survey. We actually met in this room with SHRM and GCC, and they put together an economic forum. And at that time, the Department of Labor representative, Sam Mabini, said that it had gone out to RFP, but I don't think it's been completed yet. So I look forward to more information once that required economic survey is completed. And I think that the survey will give us a clear indication on the effect of the initial increase had on local businesses, and also an overall outlook of our employment situation. So I think that's really important. I also consider an amendment which would maintain the current minimum wage for working students, as well as efforts to further develop our workforce with training and trades initiatives and provide increased value and skill. And since I have 30 more seconds, I just want to encourage everybody to visit regimeforguam.com for more information on my background and my campaign. This is just awesome.
I'm curious about something. You still have 20 seconds left. You said you would support an amendment or create an amendment to maintain the minimum wage.
Maintain the current minimum wage for working students.
Okay. Could you expound on that?
So the proposed increase in minimum wage is to increase it to 10.10. So my amendment would be, and this is in line with some of the things that the Society for Human Resource Management has proposed, to maintain the current minimum wage for students who are working. So like incoming first-time job folks.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for clarifying.
The study was put out in July 2015.
The study was put out in July of 2015. Is that the same study that you're?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay. You have another topic that we need to talk about later? Yeah.
Can you share it?
Chris Duenas, same question. What are your thoughts on the minimum wage increase?
First of all, my job now is to work with the legislature on proposed legislation and to brief the governor on its effects. If you go to the committee report on the current bill that's there, you will find that many of the Chamber of Commerce membership and others had come down to testify on the negative impacts and what has happened with the most recent, and said to wait for this study to ensure that we had proper data to see where we go from there. That's just a fact. So we need to really always concentrate when we look at legislation, what is the committee report, what have all the representatives come down and made going forward. Another thing is, there were elderly that were there, that were talking about, you don't understand the impacts of me on a fixed income. I can't go out and work anymore, so if this increases the cost of goods exponentially, think about me, because where am I going to get the money to afford major increases? So these kind of things are very delicate, and I understand the intent, and it's good to pay people as much as you can. But I'm not going to insult the intelligence of all the Guam Young Professionals here right now today. I believe that you believe that training, education, and opportunities is exactly the way to have a better life. And I believe you will raise your children that way, and I believe that you will teach our children in schools and work through your businesses to ensure that we build a solid workforce that makes money that they demand because of their skills. And that's why I think all of you are here today. Thank you.
I'm going to have to press the question. Give you 20 seconds. Do you believe that a person working 40 hours a week should be paid minimum wage or lower than a living wage?
No, I don't, Logan. But I will tell you this. A minimum wage, as far as I'm concerned, was not designed to be a living wage. A minimum wage was designed to make sure that employers are held accountable and don't have slave labor out there, that have a minimum that what you would take in order to be able to meet a minimum threshold of earnings. But going up from there is going to be dependent on your skills and your ability to produce.
Thank you.
And that's just the bottom line. That's the world we live in, Logan.
Thank you for making that point. All right. Beware the bell. Sorry about that. Fernando Estevez, actually, I believe, right? Number 11.
I've asked you the mic this time.
Yes. Minimum wage. What are your thoughts?
Minimum wage. So I'll keep it simple. We do need to wait for the study to come out. It is fact that the study, though mandated from the legislature,
wasn't at all funded by the legislature, so let's get that out. So we look at minimum wage, say it's $10 an hour, we look at the poverty line. The problem is if we do a blind increase and it affects inflation, then that dollar's not gonna stretch. So those that it's intended for isn't even gonna support them. Now those that are just right over the poverty line, barely making it, that don't qualify for any public assistance, their dollar's not gonna stretch as far, and they're gonna be living, or their wage isn't gonna take them as far, and they'll be living as though they're below the poverty line without the backup. So that's something we have to take into consideration. For the record, I don't pay any of my employees minimum wage, and I think it is, I won't insult the intelligence and the integrity of most business owners that they have the drive and passion to pay their employees a lot more than they can afford. But we all understand there's that common misconception that all business owners are made of money, and that's not the case. I'm sure you guys can relate to that.
Thank you, sir. Jose San Agustin, same question to you. What are your thoughts on the minimum wage increase?
Well, Logan, thank you for the questions. First of all, I hope that my counterparts are very serious about helping the small businesses out there and are very serious as far as growing our economy. I am for the minimum wage increase, but I would like to see it done in a gradual and respectful way. And I say this because I do have to respect the professionals who do own businesses out there who have voiced their concern that they will go broke or lose their business because of the increase. But at the same time, I am concerned of the consumer, the people that are struggling every day just trying to make ends meet. That's very important. And I'll share this with you all. Since October of last year, I've walked the streets up in Jigo and Dedido. And at one time when I was growing up, before I joined the military, there were houses up there that were built, nice houses, nice homes. Now those homes are abandoned by the dozens, plus more. And the only speculation that I can think of is those struggling families that wanted that home were not able to afford. So we want to think about this when we're talking about young professionals. Why are we working hard for our survival so that we could have food, so we could have clothing, and a place to stay, a place that we could call home? And if we cannot afford that, then we're defeating the purpose. So I hope that my counterparts will do their part. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Senator Jim Eswano, I'm going to pose the same question to you. What are your thoughts on the minimum wage increase?
Well, I'm gonna echo first of all that I believe that the study has to be made to really understand the ramification, the impact on our community. You know, it's really interesting because I agree with Senator Chris that I don't think the minimum wage was set to be the living wage. It was more for the entry-level jobs. And that is one of the arguments that the business community puts out, that really it's only for those first-timers coming into the market or those who just choose to be in that situation. But I'll tell you this, you know, even after I got my degree, after one of the typhoons, I lost everything I had. I had to go back, get a job because I had a son at the time. I worked for minimum wage. But it just made me dream a little bit higher and strive for something a little bit more just to be able to increase my income. So I don't think the minimum wage issue is the end all to answer the issue of what is a living wage. However, that being said, there's also a concern about when you raise it, the minimum wage, then you have to deal with the issue of compression. Those who make more than minimum wage, what do you do with that? You actually have to raise their wages as well. And when you talk about minimum wage, you just don't talk about that extra hour on top of it. You talk about even the taxes and the FICA and whatnot. That increases for the employer. So I think that, first of all, the study needs to be done, and then a real good discussion needs to happen amongst legislators.
Did you say that the study was done, or that a study?
My understanding, the study has not been done yet.
Okay.
That's why we haven't addressed it. In fact, the original bill was to raise it from, I believe, $3 all the way to 10 something, and it stopped at $8 because the senator at the time wanted that study to be done. It has not been done yet, and that's why even the original author is trying to push it through without the study. So my understanding is the study is not done.
Thank you, sir.